So what do if you were too late to get in on the limited edition adult Happy Meals at McDonald's? Well, you use Blender and 3D printing to make an unlimited edition of the toys. Now, I've already made Grimace, the Hamburglar, and I just finished with Birdie. So now let's finish off the set with the last one, the Cactus Buddy. Let's jump into Blender and get started on that. So to begin with, we're going to need to bring in a reference image. And I used to think that you'd do that by going to File, Import Images as Planes, which is a plugin, but that's not the best way to do it. What you do is you press Shift A and add an image reference, bring in your reference image. Now it's very, very small, and also notice it's tilted at a weird angle. If I look at it from the side, it's kind of up. That was because it comes in at the angle that you're looking at. So really, I should have put myself in front view, but instead I'm just going to hit Alt-R on my reference image and then rotate in the X 90 degrees to make sure that it's lined up properly. Now I'm going to resize it with just your regular scale and move, and I'm going to bring Grimace in to make sure that we're scaling this to be about the right size. Now I think this guy is going to be, if not a little bit shorter than, about the same size as Grimace. I don't want him to be bigger than Grimace. Grimace is a big guy. So there we go. We'll hide Grimace now, and I think we've got that right. I'm going to move him back in the Y just a little bit. And then let's start adding cubes. We're doing our rough blocking now. Starting with a cube, add a subdivision surface with a Control 1, and then I'm going to apply that one. That one's going to be just a, that's the new geometry that I want. But then I'm going to add another subdivision surface on there. And in fact, what I want to do before that, so I'm going to turn that off for now because I want to add a displace modifier. All of these characters are very, very warbly. So I have prepared some big warbles that I can put on here so that it's irregular and I don't have to worry too much about that. In fact, I might push that up to a 2. And then, and in fact, I'm going to crank this up for the next step. I feel like it's irregular in the wrong direction, but I'm going to go with it for now. And then we're going to add another displace modifier with some small warbles afterwards. Oh, and I need to apply the scale. Now, small warbles aren't right. We want to do medium warbles. There we go. That's good. That kind of gives it like a hand molded feel, but I'm actually going to turn down the strength of that. 0.5. Actually, I like that. 0.5 is good. Okay, so we've got the head in place and we're starting good. Do we need to move them up just a little bit? Maybe just a little bit. And then let's add another cube. And actually, I forgot. Always remember to name your objects. So, head. All right, let's add another cube. This one's going to be the majority of the body, actually. So we'll just name it body for now. And I'm going to use under the edit tools, the auto mirror and the X. I already had it pulled up here. And then that way, when I go into edit mode, I've only got 1/2 that I need to worry about. Although I think that I'm going to have to turn off mirror mode at some point because this guy is very irregular. But that's okay. We love him anyways. You know, it's not about not being weird. It's about loving you even if you are weird. All right, little loop cut. Move things over. And let's, well, actually, I want this to come over here for the neck. And then I'm going to extrude in the X, scale in the X, scale it down. And I think I'm going to put a loop cut here. But I haven't decided if the shirt is just going to be a separate object or if I'm going to have it be a part of the main object. I haven't figured that out yet. Still planning things out as I go. All right, let's work on the legs though. All right. And then I'm going to have to turn off clipping at this point so that the legs can be separated. And then I'm going to turn it back on because I do like clipping on. But I think we're going to do this like this. Just kind of a shape like this. This character is so irregular. It's very difficult for me to decide how that's going to go. But let's add a subdivision surface on there and take a look at how that is and see how we want it to go. Oh, I feel like the top definitely needs to be modified from this. Although we're going to have to do something with that neck. But we'll figure that out. We are still in the rough blocking phase, so maybe I shouldn't worry too much about things. All right, we need a hat on that head. In fact, I think that head maybe should be a little bit bigger. And apply that scale. Apply that scale. Now, I'm really quickly going to turn off the displace modifier and turn down the viewport display on that so that we're not working at such a high resolution, so that my computer isn't working too hard. But in the end, yeah. In fact, I forgot with this guy, we're going to need to add a displace. I want to do this during, because when I was working on the birdie model, I recognized that trying to do this at the end is just a lot of work, and it's easier if I just do this a little bit as I go. So every time I add an object, add the displace and add the medium warbles at a 0.5. And there we go. We are starting off really good. But let's turn off those displace modifiers and turn down the subdivision surface. Don't want my computer to work too hard. All right, we got to add a hat in here, so let's add a mesh cube, and we'll make this the hat. And let's go to X-ray mode. The hat looks like a separate object, as much a separate object as anything, so I'm going to treat it as such. But once again, I'm going to use the auto mirror on it, and let's go. Let's just get things in place, and we'll see how it goes. I think I may have to do some cleverness when I get to the M on its head. Let's add a subdivision surface right now. That way I can kind of see how it's going to go. I feel like what would probably be best is to loop cut the middle and then start moving these things down. Although, he's got that M in the front. I think I need to keep this like that. And maybe the best thing to do would be to... how's that working? His head, his hat is kind of tilted. But what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to try extruding this out and see how that goes. I don't think this is going to work, but we're going to try it. So let's extrude and scale down and undo this subdivision surface on it. I don't think that worked. Nope, we're going to undo those. Those did not work. Here's what we're going to do instead. You know, sometimes whenever you're working on something, especially something creative, you try a thing and it doesn't work. And whenever that happens, I like to remember that God forgives, but Control Z undoes. And you've always, this is why digital is absolutely fantastic. You've always got the opportunity to go backwards. Now, speaking of backwards, I'm going to grab this mesh here or the reference image, and I want to make it so that I can only see the front of it and not the back. And that's actually done down here in the its texture properties, object data properties, and yes, in its definition here under an empty, we just say go to the back view. We only want to see the front side. There we go. That way when I look at it from the back, it's not getting in my way anymore. All right, let's go back to pushing some points around. There we go. I like that. That feels good. That feels right. That's when you know you've done it right, when it just feels right. It's in the right place. All right, here we go. Do we want to... Is that good? That wasn't good. I feel like I want to take this point here. Maybe there's a few other points here that I want to level out and bring down just a little bit. And my purpose for doing that is to make it just a little bit more 3D printable. Try and make this so that it goes up at an angle. I know I'm you know, changing from the original design, but I think that's probably the best. Alright, that's looking really good for now. I am going to, first of all, turn down subdivision surface and turn off the warbles for now. And then I'm going to start adding face details. And these are simple planes. So this is going to be the eyes that are, well, let's rotate them 90 degrees. And start putting them in place. And of course these ones I can't mirror because they're so weird. But what I do with these planes is, first of all, I try to get them as close to the face as possible. Shape them. There we go. Then stack of modifiers on here. Here we go. We're going to shrink wrap them to the face. We're going to solidify them. And we're going to give them a thickness of maybe 2 millimeters with an offset of 0 so that they stick out a millimeter from the face. I feel like that's not even enough, but we'll go with that for now. And then we're going to subdivision surface them to make them nice and smooth. I really don't feel like that's enough. There we go. And then, as usual, we're going to add a few displaced warbles, but these are what the small warbles are for. And we just want these to be real subtle, so like not even 0.5, 0.2, 0.25. Yeah, that's about right. Now, I think I'm going to want to, actually what I might want to do is, I think I'm going to take this and this into a local view and just work on it like this. That way I can be sure it's right. But I'm going to start by adding some loop cuts here. Give me a little bit more to work with on these guys. And while I work on this, I want to talk for a second about this particular character. All the other characters in this series that I did, I wanted to add a more traditional version, right? I wanted to have a version that, you know, was a little bit more reminiscent of the characters that I remember from my childhood. But this character is totally original. He wasn't from my childhood. And so I don't feel like I really should make another version of him that's more traditional, because this is his tradition. This is it. 4 eyes. He's the one who has all of these looks and properties and whatnot. So I don't want to particularly make another version of this character, which means I think I'm going to do a different character for the next part, for the fourth one in the traditional look series. And so that means I need to choose another character. And if you've got a choice of what character from McDonald's Land you would really like to see added to this series, go ahead and sound off in the comments. I'd love to hear your input on it. Now I have my thoughts on what I'd like to see, but I'd like to hear from you guys before I make a decision. And that will be coming in a future video. But for now, I'm having a hard time getting this eye to work here. I feel like I need to move him back just a little bit so I get a little bit more control. The closer something is to the surface that you're shrink wrapping it to, the closer that your control is. That's just the way shrink wrap works. It's kind of silly that way. All right, I'm going to finish this up, and let's just speed through the rest of this face. You know, I find it kind of funny that the M that I used on both Birdie and now the Cactus Buddy, I stole from the Hamburglar. There's just something poetic about that. All right, I think I've come to a decision about how I'm handling the shirt. Option 1, I make a separate mesh, a separate object, and then I can use this object to create it, but then I make sure that I move them both together. Now I do have to move this character so that he matches the pose of the original. But the thing is, if there's two separate objects and I'm trying to match them, I would have to do that with an armature. And yeah, I really, like I say, I'm not coming up with an alternative pose for this guy, so I don't necessarily want to do the armature. So instead, I'm just going to add some geometry to the body and see if I can make a shirt here. So let's just add a loop cut to the bottom here. Let's take this and, oh, somehow I got the arms all slanted. I'm going to do a quick trick to straighten these all out. Grab those in line mode and set my pivot point to individual, oh, it's already set to individual origins. Scale into Y, 0, and that straightens them all out. Then set my pivot point to medium point, and I can scale those in just a little bit. Excellent. That's what I wanted to do. All right. So now that I've got these in more or less the right place, or the place where I want them, I'm going to select all the ones that are going to become his shirt. All of these right here. And that too. And that too. And I'm going to make sure that this auto merge vertices, I normally work with auto merge vertices because I like it. But I'm going to turn that off so that I can extrude, finish the extrude, and then Alt-S to scale them out by their normals right there and make the shirt. Now, I've still got a little bit to do here, like adding creases in the appropriate places. Let's see if I can't find the crease for the neck there. There we go. And adding a crease around the bottom. There we go. But then I've also got to add some more geometry for those loops there, so I better get on that. I think this one I can do with the loop, but I may have to get a little bit fancy for the neck here. And let me just add a crease there. That looks not exactly correct. But you know, sometimes it's just fiddling. And I'll be doing some fiddling in just a second. But around the neck here, I can't really do a loop cut. If we look at the geometry here, I can't loop cut this. What I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to select these vertices around the edge here. And I'm going to have to hit Control B and add a bevel to it. That adds the points that I need, but it does not put them in the right place. So at this point, I am vertex pushing, and this is just a lot of fiddling. So I'm going to finish the fiddling and finish up this model And then I'm going to meet you on the other side because a couple of people had questions about the slicing process. And I feel like the interesting parts of the modeling is done at this point. So let's jump to the slice after I'm all done. I'm going to finish modeling it up, apply the mirror modifier, pose him so that he's in the same pose as the other guy, and then export him. And then I'll meet you in the slicer. So here we are, it's modeling complete and ready to print, but people have been asking me, how do I break it up into multiple parts for multicolor printing? And the answer is, I don't. I don't have to do that because in Bamboo Slicer, I've already got it loaded up with my white, black, yellow, and red. Those are the only colors I get to work with on this one. And then you can color paint it. And I believe this is something from Prusa Slicer because Bamboo Slicer is a fork of Prusa Slicer. But all I have to do is pick a color, pick the flood tool, boom, now it's all yellow. And then I'm going to grab the red flood tool and adjust the smart fill angle. And in fact, I can hold down control and move it up and down until it's right. And then I can add the color wherever I need it. So there we go. That's looking about right for that. And I just do this mostly. It's as long as I maintain hard angles between the shapes, mostly I can just use the fill tool to give me the color that I want. The fill tool usually works pretty darn good for this part. I think this shirt needs to be, that's why we loaded white, because the shirt is white. Oh, I just overdid it on the red there. We'll just put that back. There we go. And I think that the M needs to be black. There we go. Actually, no, the M is yellow, and there's the word McDonald's across his chest. Well, I'm not going to worry about that. I'll worry about that afterwards. But I want to show you what happens here. Oh, and the hat is red. I forgot. The hat is red. And then I'm going to do a fill gap here and just maximum size, apply fill gap. That'll catch any of the little errors that I've made. If we go back out, and notice it's already put my purge tower here, and I'm going to have to shrink him down. But if I slice the plate, I kind of enjoy how it handles this. It handles the different objects in a different way than I would. Let's drill into it and take a look. Do you see how it kind of draws the black almost to the middle of the object here? And actually, that should be yellow too. But do you notice how it just, when it does the fill, it fills it all the way in? I would not, if I were breaking these into objects, I would not have had them go all the way in like this. But that is really the most efficient way to blend multiple objects. It's just a neat trick. It kind of finds the center point of the layer and points them towards it. And there you go. So that's how I get multicolor there. I don't really have to think about it. And of course, I haven't turned on supports. I'm going to have to do that in order to get this to finish. But I wanted to show you guys how that was done. So now that that's done, I'm going to finish slicing them up and printing them out, and then throw them at the 3D printer and see what comes out. So let's do that. Well, there he is, the cactus buddy with his 4 eyes and his McDonald's hat. Now, I did have a little problem when printing. The print stopped near the top, and so I had to print the top of his head separately and glue it on. But you can hardly notice that. And I'm surprised how little supports are actually necessary for this character. I tipped the hat up so that there would be very little supports necessary. And I tried to do the same thing on the posed Hamburglar, but I still needed supports on him. But, you know, not so much for this guy. And I did do the tree-like support, so let's go ahead and get those off now. Here we go. There we go. And with that, my collection of limited edition Happy Meal toy reproductions with 3D printing are complete. And you can, of course, take these and download these and print these yourself anytime you want. Of course, I do need to finish off the more traditional versions of these that I am making. I need to choose one more character to put in here. And I've got an idea about what I want to do, but if you've got an idea who we can add to this group, new character from McDonald's land, you let me know your choice. But until then, keep doing awesome things. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, you are a child of God, so you're special and I care about you. I'll see you next time.